Knight, the Endgame podcast, host 30 and Still Gaming. On today's episode, we're talking about Moon Knight, episode 1. My microphone sounds a little soft. I don't know why. If I can raise that up a little bit. A little bit soft. What? Hold on one second, guys. I know why. All right. That should fix it. We don't have the in and out that we were having before. All right, welcome to the first episode of the Moon Knight new Moon Knight podcast, a new show on Disney Plus. Watched it a couple hours ago. I won't tell you how I feel off the very front. I enjoyed it. We're gonna break it down. We're gonna break it down by running through it, talking about what I thought about the acting, what I thought about the CGI, what I thought about the story itself. I know nothing of the character of Moon Knight. Okay, I know nothing of the character of Moon Knight. I went in on purpose knowing nothing. And I want to know if this story tells me what I need to know based on the comic books and stuff like that. Now, I do know there's people out there that are huge Moon Knight fans, and they know everything about him. Mark Spector, Steve Grant. I know there's other personalities that they haven't introduced yet. But so on the show, the Endgame podcast is going to be a show that has to do with anything that has to do with Marvel. Right now we're following Moon Knight. Later this year we'll do Miss Marvel, and then we'll do She-Hulk as well. So if you haven't seen our past broadcasts of WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, Boba Fett, Mandalorian, like all of those. What we do on the show is we review the show. We do spoilers. So if you haven't seen the show from this morning, I know it just came out today. What this show is about the people that want to watch the shows right away. We come here and have a conversation about it. So I tell you what I thought, and then we have a call-in section where people call in and then ask questions, what I thought, what they, all the stuff, right? You can help us out on here. It's absolutely free. Please make sure you share, like, and subscribe if you're watching here on 30 and Still Gaming. This is live here on this channel, and then after I'm done with this live broadcast tonight, this will be taken down off of this main channel, and it'll be uploaded to Nerding with 30, which is our entertainment channel for anything that has to do with shows, television, anything like that. So, all right. Yeah, I'm growing my beard out. I'm going full homeless. Full homeless. I get tired of it. All right, so spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the Moon Knight episode 1, do not tune in unless you don't care, and then by all means hang around. Appreciate you. If you'd like to help us out on this channel, you can hit the share, like, and subscribe button. If you'd like to go above and beyond that on YouTube, you can hit the membership button for as little as 99 cents. You can use super chats as the show is going on. If you're watching over on Twitch, you can hit that follow button. It's absolutely free. Or you can hit the subscribe button or use your Twitch Prime sub. Don't really do advertisements or anything like that. That's the one time on the beginning and one more time at the end. And now let's get to go. All right. So Moon Knight starts off and we see Ethan Hawke's character. His name is Arthur Harrow, I think his name is how you pronounce it. We didn't know what he looks like. He's got his hands up on a table, and it starts to do like really close-up shots of him, and he's doing some sort of like ritual. He drinks the glass, smashes the glass with his cane. They show the cane. So basically, this whole scene, which I thought was really nice cinematically. Cinematically, I thought this was a really cool scene because it's establishing the character. We don't know who it is. Obviously, you don't know if it's the bad guy, if it's the good guy. You don't know who this person is, but what I do like about it, they show close-ups of everything about this person. Shoes, the cane, his hands, right? Because you have to see what his, you see the tattoo on his arm. There's things that they've established. Everything's very, very up close, which I really thought was really cool cinematically. So you see him take a glass, smash it, and then start to pour the glass into his shoes. And then he sticks his feet into the shoes. So I'm assuming, again, from an outside looking in, I'm assuming that because we find out during the show that he's worshiping a god, and to be a god, it must be painful or whatever. So he's walking with glass in his shoes to get used to the pain, I would assume. Okay. So he walks and starts to exit, and then the Marvel logo comes up. Nothing special about the Marvel logo. And then we see Oscar Isaac's character laying in bed, and we wake up and it's playing some music. Then we see that, we see shots of sand on the ground. We see a Rubik's Cube. We see it rack focus to the apartment that looks in chaos. His apartment looks in chaos. It looks like a very, it's establishing, just like they establish Ethan Hawke's Arthur's character, they're establishing Oscar Isaac's character at this point, who is Steve Grant, I think is his name. And they're showing how much chaotic, I mean, the books, and you see he's like a prisoner in his own house at certain times of the evening, right? So he's chained. He's chained to his bed. He's strapped in, got sand around his bed. He's got his doors taped. He's got multiple locks on his door. We're like, what's going on with this character? And we find out pretty fast who he is and what's his deal. So we see a close-up of this fish. The fish only has one fin, which does play a part a little bit later. He walks out and starts to walk. You can see his whole personality is chaotic. Steve's character is just absolutely chaotic. He's talking and leaving voicemail messages for his mother. He's missing the bus. He works at the museum, and I believe this is in London. As he walks up, there's a little girl looking at a pyramid. He starts to explain to the little girl about sarcophagus and how they used to drain out the people, but they left the heart. Right? And as he's talking, all of a sudden, his manager or his boss or whatever comes up and says, "You're not a tour guide. Get back to work." So he gets back to the gift shop, starts to price check stuff, and you can see that he's a mess, right? He's disheveled. He just doesn't know what his deal is, and you can see his boss, the woman. I think her name is Donna. I think Donna is his boss's name. She's just literally, she's a bitch. She just doesn't give two shits about him. Thinks that he's just a worthless piece of garbage. And then he's like, all of a sudden this hot girl comes up to him and she starts talking to him and she says, "I'll see you for dinner." And he's like, "Are you asking me out?" But obviously you can see there's starting to be a trend here. Like something's up, right? Why is he chained to the bed? Why is there doors and locks on the doors as much as there is? Why is there tape? You can see that there's some sort of different, he doesn't remember things. A split personality type of disease or whatever he's going through, right? Again, I'm watching this for the first time as a person that knows nothing about Moon Knight. Nothing about Moon Knight, just watching the show as a new Marvel fan of Moon Knight, right, for the show. I know of the character a bit from the comics and stuff, but I never read the comics of Moon Knight. I know of the character, but I don't know of the story of the character. So Donna comes back up and is like, "Hey," like she's shocked that he's getting hit on or with this, and then he says something stupid, and then again she's like, "Oh yeah, you're a real catch, aren't you?" So you can see the knowledge of Steve's character, Isaac's character that he's playing. He's very knowledgeable about the Egyptian, the history of the Egyptians. He tells her that there's 9 gods and there's only 7, and just doesn't give two shits about what he's saying. So as we go on, there's this banter back and forth between him and his boss, and literally she shouldn't be doing the job. He should be doing her job, but yet he's just such in a dishevel. It doesn't make sense. Now, there are keys on the table. They're showing the hippopotamuses. They're showing mummies. They're showing all these things, which all make, I believe, the god that Ethan Hawke's character is worshiping. Okay, as you see throughout the show. So then we jump to this scene. It's at night, and Steve's character, Oscar Isaac's character, is talking to a statue. It's one of those guys that dress up in gold or silver, and he just poses there for pictures, and he's having this long conversation, and you could tell Steve's just a character. He's an absolute crazy man. He's literally having a conversation because he doesn't have any friends. You can tell he doesn't have any friends. He doesn't really have a good communication with anybody. So he's talking to a statue, and this guy can't tell him to go, F off, because his job is to stand still like a statue. So he's tipping him as he's sort of like his therapist, I would say. He's told him a lot of stuff. People come over. Can you take our picture? Takes the picture for him, and then says, "All right, I'll see you. I'll see you tomorrow." The guy never answers back to him. Never says anything. And then we see him walk back home, and then get home. Starts to prep for the evening. You see him start to tape the doors, lock the doors, put the sand around the bed, all of this stuff, right? You see him playing with the Rubik's Cube. He's listening to some audio book and try to keep him awake. So he's like reading and he's doing all this stuff, and they're cutting back and forth, which is a little jarring, I have to say. It's a little jarring because he's in bed and he's throwing the Rubik's Cube, and you can hear the audio playing of the thing he's listening to, but then it's cutting to him reading, and then it cuts back to him laying down, then it cuts to him. So I'm assuming it's supposed to even though it's out of order, it's supposed to show that this is what he's doing, right? But I would have done like the reading first and then do something else and then go in bed and then toss the thing. But it was going from the toss to the book to back to the toss. It was very confusing. He tosses up the Rubik's Cube for like a second or third time, and as it lands, he grabs it, and then all of a sudden, boom, he wakes up, and he's in Scotland, or I mean, I don't know where he's at this point. He's not in London. He's out in the middle of a field. You can see his face is all completely destroyed. I have a picture of it so you guys can see it. Right, you can see his face is like elongated and flat. Why? Because he literally just jumped out of a window. You can see him. He looks up. He doesn't know where the hell he is. His jaw cracks, and the special effects are a little weird. A little weird. All of a sudden, he stands up, turns around, and waves to a guy up in a window. You don't really know what's going on, but then you see the windows like smashed. You're wondering, did he jump out the window? And sure enough, that's what he did. He's looking over the landscape, turns around, sees a guy, and the guy is about to shoot him. And he doesn't know where the hell he is. He thinks he's dreaming, doesn't know what's going on, which I thought was pretty interesting. And then all of a sudden, he sees a scarab in his hand or in his pocket. He pulls it out, and then he sets gunfire and starts to run, which is like this Marvel comedic type of thing. Obviously, if they wanted to shoot him, they could shoot him. He runs to the local town, which was pretty far, so he ran a really long way. And now he's in the town, then he sees all these young people, old people, all different types of people. And then Ethan Hawke's character, Arthur, starts walking through the town, and everyone's touching him like he's some sort of messiah or god or worshiper. So as he's walking through, they're all kind of bowing, spreading apart, moving out of the way. And then all of a sudden, this guy walks up to him and says he's ready, and then he pulls up his sleeve, and you see this scale on his arm with gator heads as the pulley system on his arms to hold the scale. And takes his cane with the gator heads on it, puts it in their hands, and as he's holding their hands, it's like swaying back and forth, and the goddess is judging them, knows the future, knows the past, it basically knows everything about them, and as long as they're balanced, they're saved. And then a woman comes up and says, "I am ready," and she gets rejected, and instantaneously her soul gets sucked from her body, which I thought was okay. So, and then all of a sudden the scale on his arm turned red, and then she died. And no one blinks an eye. And then all of a sudden, someone comes up to Arthur and says, "Sorry, the guy got away. We don't know where he's at." He says, "Is he still here?" And he says, "Yeah, I think he is." So he stands up and he says, he says, what does he say? He says, "We think he is. Yes, he's still here." As he speaks ancient Egyptian. I don't know what he says. And then all of a sudden, everybody in the town kneels down except Isaac, except Steve's character. And then all of a sudden, he's like, "Oh, bollocks." And he kneels down because, he doesn't know. So sticks out like a sore thumb. They walk up to him, and Steve doesn't want any problems. Right? He walks up to him. He says, "Give us the scarab." He's like, "Oh yeah, sure. Here's the scarab." And as he's giving the scarab, he can't let it go because all of a sudden, Khonshu is, I believe, the guy's name that's in taking over his body, using him as a vessel. And then you can hear the voice in his head. He's like, "If you give him the scarab, I'll kill you," or whatever. Blah blah blah. So it goes talking to Steve, and it's also talking to Mark, which is Steve's other personality, right? The non-fumbling idiot. He even calls him a moron or an idiot, or so he has no control over his body at this point. So he's controlling his body within. Arthur's getting a little annoyed by this, and then all of a sudden he runs away, gets in this. These guys got him, and all of a sudden he passes out, right? And I kind of like this maneuver that they're using with him, right? So all of a sudden he closes his eyes and freaks out, and then when he wakes up, everyone's dead around him. He's got blood on his hands. He's got the scarab back in his hands. People are walking away from him because some shit just went down, meaning very lethal, right? You would assume he fights like James Bond or some sort of like Winter Soldier type of person. You know what I mean? So all of a sudden he comes back and he doesn't know where he is again. People are starting to chase him. He gets into a cupcake truck. As he gets in the cupcake truck, he starts driving down. People early on, when they saw the trailer, they thought it was Von Doom. It's not Von Doom. It's Von Lundwick or whatever it is. It's a cupcake company. And so it might be a shout out to Dr. Doom, but I really don't think it is. So as he's driving away, this is like the worst part of the show at this point. The special effects and what was happening at this moment in the show, to me, what kind of cupcake truck? A big pig cupcake truck. So the special effects here to me were like, the budget didn't go towards it. I think a lot of the budget went over to a different show, like Luke Skywalker's face for the deep fake. Okay, the cars, just all the stuff at this point. Not that it was like took me out of the show. You could see it. You know what I mean? You could see it. So he's driving around. And he's got these cars chasing him. He's down this windy road. Slow car in front of him. It's an old lady, flicks him off or whatnot. He's being attacked by different people, and he's fighting. All of a sudden, he blanks out again. Comes back. He's got a gun in his hand. The guy is dead. Whole bunch of stuff's happening. So he's blacking out, coming back, and he's going from Steve Grant's character to Mark Spector's character, back and forth. Mark Spector's like this badass, and Steve Grant's this baffling idiot, right? So I kind of like what's happening here. The truck with the wood starts to, he swerves, the truck tips over, logs start falling down the mountain as he continues to drive. He's fighting these guys left and right in the car, blacks out again, comes back again, and then all of a sudden runs out of gas. Now, a car wouldn't run out of gas going downhill like that and then stop instantaneously, but hey, what do I know? Yeah, that's me nitpicking. He's about to get shot. This whole scene looks really, really bad, special effects wise. And then all of a sudden, he's about to get shot. The trees come by and just completely annihilate the guys that are in front of him. And then, boom, he wakes up and he's in his apartment again. So now Steve is like, what the hell just happened? And he's like, oh, it's just a dream. Okay, just a dream. Picks up himself, sees that nothing's broken, the tape's not off the door, the locks are okay, he's still fastened to the bed, all of this stuff's happening. And he sees like he's fine. Then the time passes a little bit, like in the morning happens, right? And he's watching TV, he looks over to his fish, and all of a sudden the fish that had one fin now has two fins. So he's like, what the hell? He grabs the fish, goes back to the fish store, and says, this fish had one fin, now it has two. So he thinks he's crazy because he thinks the fish that he had grew a fin, but really it's just a different fish. At least that's what I got from it. I don't know what you guys got. You guys saw it. So now the pet store lady thinks he's fucking crazy because, and then he's like, oh my God, what time is it? And it's like 5 o'clock and he has a date at 7 at the steak restaurant on Friday night. Well, as he runs out to get ready, I really like this shot that he did next, right? Because there's like a split personality that they've established in the show, right? But you don't know what it is. He's looking at himself in the mirror, but then as he looks over to the next shot, you see this shot of him looking in the mirror. And I love this shot because, again, watching this for the first time, not knowing anything about Moon Knight and piecing the piece together that obviously there's a person talking to him in his head, and then there's another character, and I don't know if there's 3, but this looks like the split personality type of thing. I really thought this was cool when they did this. He's looking at himself and he feels fine, but then when he looks over at this other mirror, he's completely like, mentally 3 different people in his head. So I thought that was pretty cool. Like the shot. Other than that, he goes to the restaurant, sits at the restaurant, he's waiting for his date to show up. She doesn't show up. He gives her a call. And next thing you know, she picks up the phone. Oh, well, now you call. He's like, what do you mean? I'm at the restaurant. I'm ready to have a steak. Where are you? She's like, that was Friday. I was at the restaurant by myself. He's like, what do you mean it's Friday? Today's Friday. She's like, no, today's Sunday. He's like, what? And then he asks the waiter, and the waiter says it's Sunday. And he's like, so she says, don't call me, lose my number. And now he's a little confused because now he's lost 2 days of his life. 2 days of his life have been completely gone. Says, I'll have a steak or whatever, and he moves on, and he's very confused. So now he goes back to the house, and, well, first he calls his mom, and his mom doesn't pick up the phone again. I don't even know if he has a mother at this point. Goes back to his house, apartment, starts to open up, starts to get ready for the whole thing, and all of a sudden, he notices something, and he starts to move furniture, moves the stuff on the floor, sees like a, like what is this, right? Because he doesn't remember any of this. So he starts to move the table over because he moves the table and it has the scratches on the thing. Then he looks up and there's this boards on his ceiling or facial of his house inside. So he moves the stuff and then goes up there. And as he gets up there, then he finds the scarab. Okay. Reaches in, grabs it. Or he finds a cell phone, not the scarab. He finds the cell phone, sorry, and a key. And then he looks at the phone and sees all of these Layla on his cell phone. Doesn't know who it is, and there's one that says Duck Champ on there as well. We don't know who that person is as of yet. So he calls the number of Layla, and she's been trying to call him for 2 months and doesn't know, like, who is this? Who are you? And she's like, Mark, why are you talking with a funny accent? He's like, would you call me? Why did you call me Mark? And now he doesn't know what the hell's going on because now he's like, I don't know where I was. I've lost 2 days of my life. This lady's calling me Mark. I don't know who Mark is. So he's freaking out. He's already a crazy nut job. And now he's losing more of his mind here, right? And then all of a sudden now he hears a voice in the apartment. And it's Mark's voice. As he's talking to him, all of a sudden now he sees how do you pronounce it, Pat? Is it Khonshu? Khonshu? It's Khonshu, Khonshu. I think that's how you pronounce it. So all of a sudden, Khonshu is talking to him, and all of a sudden the building starts to shake, and it's like an earthquake happening. So he runs outside, gets in the elevator, and he just can't get off the floor. Okay, it's the same floor over and over and over. He tries to move it. Looking in the mirror, he doesn't really see himself. And then all of a sudden, he sees this really creepy being walking down towards the elevator, and he can't, get away. The door won't shut. All of a sudden, he sees this Khonshu coming towards him. He wears this really long beak mask. Let me see if I can pause it so you guys can see. Yeah. So as he walks towards him, it's really dark, but you can see that he wears a really long, bird beak mask or whatever it is. Really tall, slender type person. And so he's freaked out as fuck as he's walking down. And then this old lady gets in the elevator and he's down on the floor. She's freaked out because she's like, this guy's a weirdo. What's he doing on the floor? And he's like, oh, I'm just going to get out here. And she's knocking on the door really fast. And the elevator closes. And then all of a sudden, boom, he wakes up. He's on the bus. Bus is full. Everyone's looking at him like he's a fucking nut job. And he's freaking out. And then all of a sudden he sees the same character, but it's in his head. Right? He sees the character outside on the street. No one else sees him. And he sees this character out on the street. And it's just in his head. As he sees the character in his head, he gets out. And as he gets out, sees Ethan Hawke's character Arthur on the bus. And obviously he runs into the museum, which I thought was a little weird because if you seen the guy who was trying to kill you outside of your work, why would you run into your work? I don't know. It's just a little pet peeve of mine, but it is what it is, right? So we do know this takes place sometime between April and July because in the museum, it says the showcase from April 22nd to July 29th. So I'm assuming it takes place the same year. Again, I don't know if it's linked. Obviously, they say it's not linked in any way, shape, or form, but I don't know where it lies in the timeline with the rest of the universe goes. So he tells the security guard, whoever gets his name wrong, he calls him Scotty, calls him a whole bunch of stuff. Hey, can you stop people that look shady to come in? And he doesn't give two shits about Scott. Or I'm sorry. Yeah, now I called him Scott. He doesn't care anything about Steve's character. Donna comes up to him. He's like, I don't have time for this. Just leave me alone. And starts to walk back. And as he walks back into the museum, he starts to hear voices. And then all of a sudden, everyone that's around him is one of the followers of Arthur Harrow. They have these scales tattooed on their arms. Okay. He comes up. Ethan Hawke's character Arthur comes up to him and starts to do a speech with him, asking him what the scarab is. Do you know what the scarab that you have is? It belongs to the goddess. The goddess is a as I describe it to you. Ethan points to this picture, and it's a alligator head with like a lion or cheetah body with a hippopotamus behind, and it's a god, an Egyptian god, one of the 9 gods that he's trying to summon or bring back, as far as I can tell so far in the show. Now, as he's talking to him like this, he gives him the cane and does that little thing again where he puts it in his hands. And he's a little freaked out. He's running away, and he says, "You're corrupt," right? He says that you have a corruption in you. I believe that's the word he uses, doesn't he? He uses the word corruption. Let me see what he says. The actual. He says that you're corrupt or something. What did he say? Oh, hold on. Oh, you're chaos. You have chaos in you. You have chaos in you. Not corrupt. So now Arthur's in the it's chaos. Thank you, Stealth. So he's in the museum at night by himself. He knows a guy's about to kill him, but yet he's still at work. This I didn't understand. Like, why the fuck are you still at work if this guy's about to murder you, right? Did anybody else think of that? Or am I the only one that thought, like, why are you still at work when this guy's at your job, man? Like, run away. Anyway. So now Arthur starts to threaten him, and all of a sudden, there's this demon-like creature that walks by or is there, and Steve's hiding behind the statues and stuff inside the museum, and then he throws his bag, and this demon-like creature gets his bag and tears it apart. As he walks through the museum, he goes into the bathroom, and then when he goes into the bathroom, he sees I like this cinematically, where all the mirrors, this void of all these characters, but you see all of them lined up except the one, which is Mark, talking to Steve through the mirror and says, you gotta give me control. You gotta let me have control, because if you don't let me have control, we're gonna die. And then he's like, I'm gonna die. He's like, you're not gonna die, just give me control. And then all of a sudden says, okay, and you see him freak out. Once he freaks out, he blacks out right at the right moment. demon comes jumping in, and boom, jumps on top of him. Scene moves where the camera moves in, pans into the bathroom, and you see Moon Knight just beating the shit out of this demon-like creature. Bathroom's torn up. Really cool shot. And then you see Moon Knight where he walks in, and this is your first shot at Moon Knight. So obviously he's been Moon Knight for a while, right? He's been Moon Knight for a while because it's not just Mark killing the things. Moon Knight is Mark. Am I correct on this? Chat, is that what you got from this? Or is Moon Knight another character? Right? Mark is Moon Knight. So when he's Mark Spector, he's Moon Knight. And when he's Steve, he's just an idiot. Correct? Okay. So every time, like in the beginning, when he was in that little town, Moon Knight is Mark Spector. Okay. So that's what I got from it. So every time in the town when he was murdering those guys or blacked out, am I to assume that every time he turns into Mark Spector, he's turning into Moon Knight? Or can he just be like, I'm 30 and still gaming, and then all of a sudden I turn into Deadly 30 and still gaming? Or is it he converts, Mark automatically turns into Moon Knight every time? So like when he was driving the vehicle, did he turn into Moon Knight? When he was in the town, did he turn into Moon Knight? Is that why people were looking at him crazy? Or were they looking at him crazy because he was murdering people in the streets? That's what I don't know. Is every time he turns to Mark, he's Moon Knight? All right, so that's the synopsis of the rundown of the show. I thought, besides the special effects during the cars chase sequence, okay, which was the worst part for me, but it's not bad in any way, shape, or form. The hero persona wraps himself into the costume whenever he takes over. Okay. So I absolutely enjoyed this episode a lot. Okay, a lot. Okay. I would assume yes. I don't know. Okay. I'm assuming that he turned into it as well. But obviously, when I was watching it, and then I saw him turn, and when he gave control over to him, because I would assume that he's fighting him back and forth. That's why he says, you have to give me control. But when Mark takes over, you don't know how long he's blacking out for, right? Could be 2 months, could be 2 weeks, could be 2 days. Different times. I think this is the strongest episode 1 of Marvel. I'll agree with that. And here's why I don't know, though, if it's because it's a character that hasn't been seen before in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Hear me out, okay? All the other characters that we've had shows for, we've already seen them in movies, okay? And they already were established. So we had sort of this predetermined thing, if it was good or bad, before we even saw it, because we already saw these characters. This character wasn't in anything, okay? Now that we see him in this show, because he's a fresh character, because he's a brand new character, we don't have this predetermined stuff, unless you're a fan of Moon Knight and you read the comics. But what I'm saying is, as far as an outside looking in, this character is brand effing new, just like you were watching Marvel Cinematic Universe for the first time and first seeing Thor, or first seeing Iron Man, or first seeing Black Panther, or first seeing all these characters, right? Right? So all of these characters we've seen before, so we already have this prejudgment of, what are they going to continue? What are they going to do? Are they going to connect this to this? So now this article makes sense that we talked about last week of it's not attached. And I said, it doesn't have to be attached, but is it still within the same universe, right? I do know Moon Knight's part of the Midnight Sun organization, right? So is Blade. So is Black Knight. So is, right? So all these other characters. So I would assume the reason they're establishing him in the Disney Plus series and in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is so that they could later connect him with Blade and all of them to do maybe a Midnight Sun Avenger type film, right? And obviously it's not called Avengers, it's called Midnight Sun, but they would do a movie with a group up of that, right? This would be one of the next renditions of it. They would have all these other films separate, and then they would make a Midnight Sun film down the road, right? Anyone else feel that? I feel like that's what they're doing. Anyway, going back to Moon Knight, I really like the way Oscar Isaac looked. Now, obviously, we never saw him fight. And we saw this footage of him fighting and training to become Moon Knight, and I looked at him and said, looks a little heavy. Hopefully he gets better at his skill, but I'm excited to see him. We never saw him fight. Never. Okay, obviously we see him punching a couple times with Moon Knight, but we never see him do anything in this first episode, but I'm okay with it. Because I didn't even think we were going to see Moon Knight the first episode. Okay? Obviously it's the last couple seconds, which is fine. I liked how they established Steve Grant's character. Okay? Is that his last name, Steve Grant? I think it's Grant. I like how they take Steve's character and they take the time to flush out his story. Okay? Little by little, they kind of bring in Mark, his other personality, in as well. And obviously, maybe next episode, we get more of Mark than we get Steve, right? So they start to piece together like his split personalities and whatnot that's going on. Okay? I really like Ethan Hawke's character. I like the way they were filming it. I like the way they had the voiceovers going on in his head. I wasn't confused on when he was Steve or when he was Mark or when he was blacking out and stuff like that. I thought everything was done very well. I liked the cinematography of it. I thought the soundtrack of this first episode was very good as well. My biggest letdown was the special effects during the car chase scene. Other than that, and again, it's not a big thing. It didn't break me out. I was like, "Oh man, that looks cheesy." Okay, it looked too fakey. You know, trying to look like a car chase scene with when he swerved around the truck and all that type of stuff. It just looked a little weird. Other than that, though, I absolutely love the costume of Moon Knight now that we see a little bit more. I absolutely love Isaac's way. Now, his accent was a little weird, but I totally get what it is because once you heard Mark speak in the mirror, you're like, oh, it's just like a straight up no accent whatsoever. And then he's like completely. So I understand the choice of taking the accent that he have as Steve and then completely losing it as Mark, so you can tell the difference between when he's one and when he's the other. So kudos to Oscar for doing a role like this where he gets to play a couple different characters, which I think is pretty cool. As far as after my thought process here, I'm gonna go watch other people's in depth of like Easter eggs and all this other stuff to like catch myself up on it. Right, like I already knew Wanda and Vision. I already knew Falcon and Winter Soldier. I already knew that type of stuff, and I could talk more about that character than I could talk about this character. I'm really excited to see where they go with this character moving forward, and I'm happy. Now, my expectations now are still the same. I'm not raising the bar going, oh, this is really good. Just like Zhang said, or Duke said, that this is the best opening show for Marvel to date. I agree with that 100%. And again, I think it has to do with a brand new character introducing, right? They could have introduced Moon Knight in a movie first and then had a TV show, but no, this is the first time you're seeing him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think this is a really good. Now, is 2 going to be filler? Is 3 going to be filler? Do we get something? Stealth said something that 4 is a big episode. I hope they can keep this level keep going for the next couple episodes, right? I'm not asking for like action-packed every single episode, but what I am asking for is to keep the par what they've established here. Okay? First impressions are everything, and this first impression is really good. Can they keep it going through episodes 2 through 6? Because right now, Moon Knight, and again, I know this is loosely, but the reason I bring this up is right now it's 84% by critics, 92% by audience, okay? Just to compare, WandaVision's at 91 critics, 88 audience. Falcon was 86 critics, 85 audience. Loki was 92 critics, 91 audience. What If is 94 across both. Hawkeye is 92 and 91. And Moon Knight's 84, 92. Now, I don't know why this has got an 84. I truly believe that this is the best Marvel show that they've done. They're saying, as of right now, obviously, not a lot of people have reviewed it. 86 people have reviewed it, though. Okay, which is 10 more than Halo got after a week. Okay, they got in one day. So Falcon and Winter Soldier is one of the worst shows on the platform, and yet it's scoring less than that. There's no way this episode 1 was worse than anything that Falcon made. Okay. So, and then obviously we have Mando. Mando's at 93.91, and the Book of Boba Fett's at 68.60. Okay, so that's the worst show on the Disney Plus series. But as far as Marvel goes, Falcon and Winter Soldier is the worst one. Where do you guys land? What do you guys give it? I would give this one in the 90s for sure for the first episode. I would say like a 92, 93 type of area. I loved it. I thought it was good. I was focused the entire time. I wasn't picking up my phone to try to scroll through anything. I wasn't distracted in any way, shape, or form. I literally was like, who is this character? Who is Moon Knight? Who is Steve? What is Mark? What is, that's what I liked. I love the show. I hope episode 2 stays on par with this. I really hope it does. I hope Marvel can do it. But I don't want to get my hopes up here. So I'm not going to raise the bar. I'm excited about it. So yeah, that does it for the actual review section or the talks about it. Now, if you guys want to talk a little bit about Moon Knight, I will open up the Discord. You guys can chime in, ask questions, talk a bit. I will be going into the live stream. Rotten Tomatoes is, in my opinion, ass, and numbers mean nothing. That might be so, but commercially, articles and stuff are written because of it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it is. You don't have to like it. But the normies that look at stuff and articles that are written, it tells you like the review process, and they tell this is what they quote. They quote on Rotten Tomato. They show Metacritic, because these things are corporate numbers. This is what drives people to go watch certain shows. People that don't know what it is will go, well, is this a good show? Let me go see, right? Anybody that's on Twitch, anybody that's on YouTube looking stuff like this is not the norm. Okay? You're the minority. Where all the other people that are the normies will look up an article and they'll be like, oh, the article says it's an 84, it's a 92. That's what they'll do. Right? If you guys want to talk, just bring yourself into the waiting room, and I will drag you down. If multiple people are up there, I'm going to drag one at a time so we don't go back and forth. And then want to stay in, I'll bring in the next person, and we can have more of a talk. But I want to kind of go back and forth because it's hard to see who's going to stop talking and who's going to talk or whatever. So I used to combine both numbers together and see if it reached a certain boundary. But that's what I did. That's exactly what I do. So, like, right now, it's an 84-92. So, if you split it, it's like an 87, right? And that's what I've always done with review process. I take what critics say, I take what audience says, and I just split the number in the middle and go, all right, so it doesn't matter if it's a 40 on one end and 90 on the other. That means it's like a 60 or 70. You know what I mean? I stopped with Rotten after the deleted reviews of Captain Marvel adjusted the fan score because of women. What's going on, Wolverine? I totally understand what you guys are talking about. What I'm saying, though, is that the mainstream market uses Rotten Tomatoes. The mainstream market uses Metacritic for video games and whatnot, right? I totally understand where you guys are coming from. I don't look at it as, audience loves it, it's 4%. Fuck that. Shang-Chi was not a 98, okay? Was not a 98. Audience scores saying it's a 98 doesn't know. Those people that made Shang-Chi a 98 don't know what the hell they're talking about. Okay, because just on a base movie level, it's not a 98. It's not almost a 2% less than a perfect movie. I'm sorry. So I totally understand what you guys are saying. It's garbage, but I reference it because it's still relevant for what drives people to go see it, what drives articles and whatnot.